Broke Amateur Podcast, N6PUD. Four 18 2022. What's going on? Boy, did I get blasted on my TikTok page or my TikTok account. Well, if you've listened to this podcast or you've listened to me, I've explained to all 1,000 some odd followers. I've only got a couple of years into this amateur radio thing. I'm very new to it still. And, you know, the TikTok thing, it's not a full-time hobby for me. I do it because it's fun. I do it because I enjoy amateur radio. So, also doing a video version of this. I just had a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. Wanted to talk about here. It'll be a quick, easy, fast podcast. So for those of you that celebrate Easter and all that other stuff, I hope you had a wonderful Easter. I sat around and watched a program called, I think it's called Utopia. Wow. I got, I want to say 2 episodes into it, and I turned it off. And I'll just leave my reasoning for turning it off because I don't want to disrespect anybody. And this is a family-friendly podcast. This is something that, you know, you can drive your kids to the beach or, I don't know, whatever people do. And everyone can listen. So, wow, what a program. Anyway, the music that you're hearing for this podcast is used with permission from the fine folks over at purple-planet.com, purple-planet.com. And the name of this track is called Punching Bag. So, all of my podcasts, I use their music. And I use it with their permission. All they ask you is if you use it for this purpose, give them credit. And this podcast can be heard on all of your major podcasting platforms. So I bought me a Xiegu G90. The G Core. And I posted about it on Facebook. I posted about it on Facebook. I posted about it on my Instagram and my TikTok, and there's a user group over on Facebook. It's the Xiegu G90 user group, and I posted on there because the group that I'm in, I posted on there that my knob, and everybody thought that I was talking about the plastic knob, which, I mean, it makes complete sense that I'm talking about a radio and the knob, but, and then in the reply that I got, someone said, well, you can get a new knob for that. And I said, wait, no, let me explain. It's how you tune in your frequency. Someone said it was a potentiometer, and the person that is selling the potentiometer, that's what it was referred to as. And now I'm being told that it's a decoder. Well, let me first and foremost remind you that I am only in this hobby a little less than a couple of years. I would refer to it as the VFO, the variable frequency oscillator. That is what is broken on the radio. Someone said decoder, someone said potentiometer. It's a knob to me. But this is the issue. The issue is that it doesn't work. And the radio, I bought it at the end of February. I probably have a few hundred hours using it, and I was tuning on 40 meters to head over to 7.235 to check into one of the nets over there. And I was going to check into the net, and as I was using the VFO on there, all of a sudden it got real hard and quit spinning. It just literally quit spinning. So I guess it's not an uncommon thing to happen to these radios. And here's the other thing. I modified the radio. I took the diode out and I opened it up, adding 11 meters into the radio. So that voids the warranty. But I did not buy the radio directly through Xiegu. I bought it through a distributor. And I emailed them and asked them, what do I do? I purchased the radio directly through you, not through Xiegu. So am I able to use the warranty on this radio? Or am I going to have to purchase the piece of, the dial, the VFO thing? I refer to it as a VFO. Somebody said potentiometer. It's a VFO. It's the whole assembly. I mean, you have functions on the radio. If you've ever looked at a Xiegu G90, there are functions on that radio. And I should put it up on the video here because there's actually a video, for this podcast, and there's the audio portion. I upload the audio portion to all of the podcast platforms. And anyway, the functionality of the radio is through the knob. Everything, every function on this radio. I mean, you can go in and adjust things, but you've got to use that knob to get in there to do it. So all of your functionality is on that black knob. And that's your VFO. That is everything that gets you all around the band. Yes, I can use, and I'll show you folks, the microphone, but to fine-tune people, you really need the VFO, and it's not working. It is broken. It is stuck in that position. Unless I go in and I tune each individual frequency, I can't go in steps. I can't do that. I mean, I can through the microphone. I don't think that I can turn the power up through the microphone. I might be able to. I've never tested that. But bottom line is, the functionality is all through that VFO. That knob with everything that you. I don't know. I might be able to do it. But anyway, the bottom line is that it's a brand new radio. I've had it less than 3 months. I love the radio. It's a great little radio. Yes, the only thing that is missing on it is 6 meters. That's really about it. And and the functionality of it, obviously there's no FM. So that's, the sad thing is that I can't use the radio for what I bought it for, because the knob is whatever that thing is. Some say it's a potentiometer, a decoder. I can't go to any frequencies through that knob, and I can't get into any of my functions because the way that you're supposed to, I should say. Now, again, I've never tinkered with that. I don't know if I can. Let's see if we can do that. No, you can't. You can't do that. So I can't bring my power up or down unless, well, I guess I can, but it's really, really hard to do. And like, I'm afraid that I'm going to break the thing if I continue to tinker with it. So yeah, I guess parts of it does work. Anyway, um, so I'm hoping that I receive an email and they tell me to send the radio in, or they tell me to send in the face, the the face of it, the head. Just send it back in. They'll send me a new one. That's my hopes. It's a great little radio. It has its quirks. It has things that it doesn't have. Everybody that I've talked to, without any amplification, only the 20 watts that it does out of the radio, has said the radio sounds amazing on sideband, on single sideband. And I've had no negative signal reports except for the first few days that I was using it, until I had a friend of mine who was local here, and he walked with me and told me, okay, let's go to a frequency where there's nobody talking right now, and we're going to go through and we're going to set everything up so I can hear it, and then I will play it back to you via a recording. We're going to dial in your compression and everything. So I have the RIT dialed in perfect, where, well, I had it dialed in where I could tune people in without having to tinker with the VFO, or, go in steps. I also have the RF gain set where I like it, about a third of the way up. Let's see. It's just a great little radio. Yeah, the LCD display is a little small. Little is little is kind of, well, it's very little. So that's me exaggerating. It's small. I guess if I really wanted to make it look bigger, I could set my magnifying glass in front of it and view it through that. Yeah, there you go. But I mean, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, folks. It's small. I guess maybe if you're visually not completely visually impaired, you'll be good. But it is small. And there are guys out there that actually have it set up with a magnifying glass to use it. But you can actually hook it up to your PC and view it through your PC, right through the front. So, anyway, enough about that. Hopefully, hopefully, I can get the radio fixed and I won't have any issues with the warranty and all of that. So, and right now, 75 meter, we've got somebody on uh, 3.885, and it looks like somebody over on 3.905, and it's, from where I'm at, it's pretty dead. I normally listen to 3.9 at night. There might be somebody on there, or that's just, no, it's dead. No, it's dead. Anyway, so I have quite a few followers on TikTok, and the vast majority of them are all amateur radio operators. And I follow a guy, and I don't remember what his name is for the life of me. And hopefully this doesn't start playing right when I get on here. Let's see. So the guy's name is B Plot 714, And he writes to me, "Hey, Captain, that's not a potentiometer, but it works on LED light shining through a disc that's decoded direction and speed. Sometimes dust can build up." I don't know if that was a poke at me or what, but whatever. It is what it is. Uh, I don't. It's constructive criticism, and it doesn't anger me. It's like, well, that's uh, that's his way of saying it's not a potentiometer. It's a decoder. Well, the part that I need to order is referred to as a potentiometer. So that's what I referred to it as. And there's a gentleman on there, Ham Radio something, and I don't remember what his name is, but it's Ham Radio something. And he was talking about HF and about upgrading to his general license. And he listened to somebody that talks on HF, and he prefers repeaters, and he prefers D Star, and he prefers DMR and all of the FM digital modes over HF. And that's cool because that's his preference. But until you've actually worked HF, I don't think you have a valid, I don't think you have the full grasp of how HF really works. And his other comment was 5.9 this and signal report this and signal report that. Well, it is true to a certain degree. Now, HF to me, I don't like to do nets. I have a couple that I do once in a while. And because a lot of those nets that you listen to on repeaters, and some people do it on simplex, a lot of people do nets on HF 40. I do know of one on 17 meters. There's a couple on 20. I enjoy informal nets, ones where, yes, it's guided by a net control, but it's fun. It's a trivia. I like trivia nets. It's a lot of fun. You blurt out your answer, and if you're lucky, the net control will hear you, and that's it. But yes, there is a lot of 5.9 and 5.9 this and 5.9 that, and you're 30 over, you're 20 over. But there's so much more to HF than there is to just playing around on a network that's connected via the internet. And I do enjoy digital FM, digital FM. It's fun. I love D Star. I don't care that much for DMR. I do have DMR. YSF is fun. All of those digital modes are fun, but I just don't feel that it's actual over the air. I know for me, right here on my ID 5100, my ICOM ID 5100, I'm connected through my hotspot, and my hotspot is connected to the internet, and my signal goes from the internet to that reflector. Same principle with DMR. I don't feel like that is the same principle. Yes, you are talking to a station in Jamaica or I don't know, just Ireland, but you're talking to somebody through a network. It's not the same. It's not the same as grabbing my microphone and going on, I don't know, 17.155 and hearing somebody talking from Ireland and grabbing my mic and keying it up and giving my call out, that person responding to me from Ireland and saying, "Hey, I can hear you. Your signal is beautiful in here. You have a nice signal. You have great audio. Uh, well, what's my signal? Well, you are, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9". What's my signal? Oh, you're 5'9", or you're this over or that over. It's way different than talking through a digital network connected to the internet. And I'm not saying that it's a bad mode of operation. I'm just saying it is nowhere near the same as talking to somebody through a wire with, I don't know, 50, 25, 20, 100, 1,000. It's not the same because I only need 1 watt or less than that to go through a network that's connected to the internet up on a repeater or through my own personal little digital board over here. Now, one of the great things about doing your talking through like one of those Brandmeisters or a reflector or whatever is if you can't have a bunch of antennas at your house, well, you can still get on the radio and talk to your fellow hams, and there's plenty of hams that enjoy doing digital modes on FM. And I'm not bad mouthing that at all. It is fun, and I remember when I had my technician license. When I first got my technician license, I had all that stuff hooked up, and I still have it all hooked up, and I do enjoy the digital FM modes. Nothing negative about it, but it is not the same. And there's people that try to dispel that and say, well, it is the same. You have to have a call sign and blah, blah, blah. And yes, you do need to have a call sign to be on DMR. And you also do need a call sign to get on any of the digital FM modes. You, if it's related to ham radio, you've got to have an amateur radio call sign. And the cool thing is there is probably going to be somebody on there and ready to grab that mic and talk back to you. But it is a lot different than HF. Way different. It sounds different. It doesn't sound as good. I personally like the way HF sounds. I don't care for DMR. I don't like the way it sounds. It just sounds over compressed, and it's this big bits and bytes of data that's compressed. So you sound like this. And just, I don't know. It doesn't sound right. But it is fun. It is fun. I can take that HT with me. And as long as I have a repeater nearby, or I could even take my hotspot and put it in my car and connect that way. And, I have my own connection. As long as I have my cell phone with data, I can get on and I can work DMR. And you can also do simplex on DMR. I have my ICOM. I could put my ICOM in my car and use my internet to get there, or I could do it right through my radio. And as long as there's a repeater, I'm good to go. That's awesome. But to say that you don't care to hear 5.9 this and 5.9 that, and you have never actually sat down and taken the test to get your general or your extra, I don't think you have a valid argument. I think a lot of people say stuff like that because they're afraid to go in and sit down and take that general exam. It's not super hard. It's, there's a lot of things you've got to remember. And all of that applies to everything you do every day on HF or on this or that. I'll tell you the number one reason, and I've said this on all my videos. Well, not all of them, but on a lot of my videos on TikTok. I got my general license because I wanted to have full access to 10 meters. Before I had my amateur license, I loved 10 meters. I could never talk on 10 meters, but I loved it because I've liked Citizens Band. I still do Citizens Band, but it's not the same. People are just different. Yeah, you're going to have different classes of amateurs on 10 meters. There's people that are very, very, there's a code, an ethic, like a code. It's an ethical thing where people are strict about how you operate on amateur radio. And they're even more strict how you operate on HF. And I respect that because you're my fellow ham. But I don't like people who are rude. There's a lot of mean and kind of vindictive people on HF, starting at 10 meters all the way to, I don't know, all the way through the HF bands. And we'll just leave it at that. But I think for somebody to say that it just doesn't sound exciting, and that's the same person. I know people right now that have had their technician license for over 30 plus years. And that's all they care to have. And I think that a lot of those people only care to have that because they don't want to take that test. Well, now there's no code. You don't have to know code to get your license anymore. And there's plenty of things to do as a technician from 28.3 to 28.5. But for you to say that I don't want to sit around and give signal reports all day. There's so much more to do on HF than just give signal reports. If you're a guy that likes to check into nets, there are thousands of nets all day long on every HF frequency that you could possibly want to talk on. There's some that are exclusive to amateur extra portions, and the vast majority of them are all right where a general can talk. So for you to say that you're not interested in all of that is a cop-out. It tells me that you just don't want to take the next step and get your general. All of the places that you can go to study to get your general, and the fact that you don't have to sit in a classroom setting and have people behind you and on this side and on that side, and if you're just somebody who's not comfortable taking that general in a classroom setting, that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. You just don't have, you've never pushed yourself to take that general or to take that extra. Now, for me, right now, it's just sheer laziness that I don't have my extra because I'm telling you, I sat here tonight, and I heard 3 or 4 different stations in the extra portion of 40 meters. I want to say it was 7.146. I could look right now and tell you. And I kind of feel it kind of ticks me off a little bit because I'm just killing time. I've got plenty of time on my hands to continue to study for that extra, amateur extra. So it was 7.146, South Africa. South Africa. He was around, he was about 5'8", 5'9". I couldn't key the mic up because I'm not licensed to talk in that extra portion. I'm only licensed to talk in the general portion. And that's okay because that's where I have stopped. So again, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but it's a big cop out when you say that's all I'm interested in. I truly believe that. Now I could be completely wrong. Some people, all they want to do is talk. Um, I like to. Well, it's not really locally because I've talked on FM on 2 meters. I've talked over 400 miles, maybe no more than that, 500 miles on FM, line of sight to the mountains in the Sierra Nevadas. So, and I'm in Lake Elsinore, California. So that's quite a haul. Mount something. It was somebody doing a POTA, a Parks on the Air activation. And anyway, so I believe that the guy that was saying this, and I won't say his name or his call sign, he's lazy and he doesn't want to take the time to study for the general. It's not very hard. I'm a knucklehead and I passed it. I missed 2 questions, I believe. I'm going to say 2 or 3. I think it was 2. And it was the ones that I had studied my butt off on trying to pass that. So, and it was those 2 or 3, and I think I remember which ones they were. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I passed it, and I didn't just sit here and study the same things over and over. I didn't just remember the answers. I studied. I learned what it took and how that wire that's out on the side of my house responds to each frequency and how it responds to that band. That's taking what you've learned and applying it. And I hear it over and over that now that you have got your general, it's a license to learn. It's a license to learn. It's a license to tinker. And it is. And there's a lot of areas that I can talk in that I've never talked, and I probably never will. I will probably never talk on 23 centimeters. Maybe if somebody gave me a radio or 33 centimeters, I will probably never talk on 630 meters. And I will probably never talk on 2200 meters, 1.35 kilohertz. I've keyed up and identified on 160. I've keyed up and identified on 60 meters, but I've never had a QSO on there. I'm not saying I won't, because if you do the math, what you learned, 160 meters is about 200 feet. I don't have that much space on my half acre of land to put up an antenna. I mean, I could make one, and applying what I've learned, I could make one that would work, but I don't know. I that to me is something that I may tinker with at some time. And when I do decide to tinker with it, I'll let you know. But anyhow, where have I spent most of my time, even with the general license? On 10 meters. I've made some contacts on 20. I've worked, I want to say I've worked 2 stations from Europe on 10 meters. And 80 meters, And 75 meters, there's a lot of rag chewing at night. And that's something that I like to do once in a while. I will sit here and I will listen to conversations on 75 and 80, but I don't really I don't really talk a lot. I enjoy listening. But the cool thing is I can actually grab that mic and key up and get involved in the conversation if I wanted to, because I have I went and I took the test and I passed it. So there's a lot of fun things to do with your technician license. And I'm not bad mouthing anyone who has a technician license and has had it for more than 30 years. I just feel like there's so much more that you can do on HF. There's a lot of things, a lot of places to talk. And yeah, I don't know. Never really talked much on 12 meters. Now, again, I think I had one conversation on 12 meters. 15 and 17, yeah, but anyway, enough about that. Is HF exciting? Yes, it's a lot of excitement. Tuning in stations that are on the other side of the world. That's very cool. Having conversations with Japanese stations, stations from Australia, making contact with stations in the Caribbean. I've done that. One station I want to work, I would love to work a station from Cuba. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but I'll tell you when I do. I would really love to work a station in Cuba. I would like to work a station on HF from Ireland, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I've done a lot of South America, Central America, Mexico. I've done all that. But Cuba would be awesome. Puerto Rico. I've worked Puerto Rico. I've worked a bunch of stations. So a lot of Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. I've worked those. Chile. Talked to Santiago, Chile, Brazil. Anyway, the sky's the limit with that license. Anyway, yeah. So HF is a lot of fun, and I guess that's about it for me. I really, anyone that's listening to this podcast, I just wanted to throw out there that, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't have any companies telling me to try their radios out, give us an idea, put it on your podcast. No, nothing like that. I am doing this because I love amateur radio and I'm having a blast with it. And these videos that I do are for fun. The one that blew up the biggest was the one with the radio frequency, the green dot that Walmart uses. And that wasn't me trying to dispel anything. That was me just saying, hey, it's a grandfathered in frequency that they've been using for years, and they didn't have to vacate the frequency. And they do get hindered all the time. I'll sit in that parking lot after normally when I go to Walmart, I get one of those sandwiches from the deli, and I eat it while I'm in the parking lot, looking at my bank account. I just went in there and spent $300 on food, and I'll listen. And there's somebody always on there harassing the Walmart people, but it's kind of like we're talking $1 million corporation, and they can't afford to buy a frequency and use encryption. I mean, we're talking $1 million corporation. So anyway, but again, this is why I do this podcast, because I love amateur radio. And I am still learning, so I'm not a seasoned amateur radio operator. I am still learning. So if I don't say something correctly, I don't I expect to have somebody correct me, and that's just the way it is. So, you know, you can check me out on TikTok, N6PUD, Instagram, N6PUD. My website is timothylpate.com, timothylpate.com. Lots of interesting stuff up there. And those of you that have not gone or you're thinking about getting your amateur license, there's many places to go and take that test. And it doesn't have to be right away. Give yourself a month, give yourself 2 months. Or if you're one of those gung-ho people, go and take the test a week or so after you study. I mean, I studied for my general about a month. I studied for my technician license about 2 weeks. Yeah, it was about 2 weeks, because I started studying. Yeah, anyway, it was 2 weeks that I studied for my technician, and I took about a month for my general, and I'm probably going to continue to study, and it's probably going to take me a couple of months to feel comfortable enough to do the extra. But I try to do it as soon as I feel like I'm ready, and that's when I go and I do it. So that's that. So anyway, anyone listening to this podcast, you're thinking of studying for that license, and you're thinking of going and taking it, do it. Don't waste the time, because you lose that information up here if you don't go and do it. So anyway, I'm hoping that I hear back from somebody on my Zygu, and I can get that sucker fixed, and it's working, and it's tip top. So anyway, all 7.3 again. The music you hear on this podcast is from the fine folks over at purple-planet.com. So everyone, thank you for listening, and I hope to hear you, or I hope that you enjoy this podcast, and maybe you learn something from it, or you just listen to me babble. We're into this podcast now about 43 minutes, so just me babbling, nothing important, right? Purple-Planet. Check us out on all of the major podcast platforms. So 7.3 everyone from N6PUD, the Broke Amateur. Thank you for listening, and hope to hear you out there on the bands.